Okay, I could use my teacher voice, but
don't strain it.
Probably.
Save that.
Good afternoon. Thank you to Chair Gallo and members of the committee for hearing my testimony today. My name is Mary Barden, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Education Association, Rhode Island. And I want to thank Senator Murray for introducing Senate Bill 771. Student health and well-being is a top priority of NERI's legislative agenda, as is this particular bill. This legislation is one piece in the puzzle of improving student mental health and well-being in our schools. Rhode Island's young people are in crisis. In 2022, a cohort of pediatricians and psychiatrists declared a state of emergency in child and adolescent mental health here in the Ocean State. Removing or restricting cell phones in public schools is one of many necessary steps to support our students academically, socially, and emotionally, helping them to learn and thrive. We know that cell phones are a distraction to learning. Restricting the use of cell phones in school will reduce distraction, improve mental health, and strengthen the learning environment. Currently, 19 states have passed laws, enacted policies, or mandated that districts make recommendations that ban or restrict cell phone use in the classroom. Here in Rhode Island, several districts and schools have already developed strong policies in collaboration with educators, families, social workers, administrators, and even our school resource officers. And I know some of our members here today are going to talk about some of those policies and how well that they're working. You'll hear that the results are positive. Students are more attentive, engagement is improved, and behavioral problems have been reduced. Beyond the classroom, there is eye contact in the hallway. Students are speaking to each other at lunch. If you go into lots of lunchrooms today, you just see kids staring at the phone. They walk by you in the hallway. They bump into you. They don't even know you're there. It has increased interaction and social connections, and students are thriving. This legislation correctly makes exceptions for students who need their electronic devices for individualized learning plans, multi-language learning supports, or medical purposes. Importantly, enforcement would be handled by administration, not left to teachers, allowing educators to focus on instruction without the burden of policing phone use. Teachers don't want to be the cell phone police. NERI's own polling shows that 76% of our membership believes a cell phone policy prohibiting use during instructional time would prove very effective in curbing challenges regarding student behavior. There's certainly no one-size-fits-all policy, and this bill allows districts the flexibility to tailor the policy to their own needs of their students, their community, with input from educators and families and students. And so this legislation will ensure that every district has a consistent district-wide policy on personal electronic devices, and therefore we just ask you to pass Senate Bill 771 and take a step towards improving student learning environments. Thank you.
Are there any questions for this witness? Senator Zoria.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Can you help me understand why in a given district, if the teachers want this policy, why people are pushing back, what reasons they give, and why it's not the effort to institute a policy at the district level is not successful?
I mean, I think there's a variety of reasons, and I would defer to some of our members here to talk about some of the pushback, which in the districts where it's successful, I think first of all, some of that pushback is, that parents are afraid. Right? And so, but we need to involve parents in the district policies, in making sure that they understand what the policies are. And I think that, I think some of the pushback too is that, it is someone's personal property, right? That is a concern. But I think that the way that it's being used in the districts that are using it, that concern has been mitigated, and that there are ways for that to be mitigated in order for that personal property issue not to become a problem. Because what I don't want to say is I can give you examples of how it's like what districts are doing a multitude of things where it's working. And I know Brian's going to talk about the yonder pouches and probably some of my other colleagues too.
So am I correct in inferring that the pushback is from parents then? Is that?
I think so. I mean, I think there's some pushback from parents. I think, I think there's also pushback from students. but they've grown up in a world where they don't know what it's like to look people in the eye and have a conversation. And it's very hard to teach students how to do that when they have these personal devices and they're not actually looking you in the eye. I mean, one thing that we do, I was a middle school teacher for 20 years, we teach kids how to become adults, right? And how to look people in the eye and how to have conversations and to have difficult conversations. And when students have a phone and that's what they're concerned about, it becomes very difficult to do that. And I'll also say that this also doesn't negate the need to teach students how to use social media responsibly. It's kind of like a dovetail here, and I would say that we need both things. We need to do this, and it's a both and teach students as they become adults, which is one of the things we do in schools, is how to use cell phones responsibly as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Senator McKinney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two daughters teaching in Rhode Island high schools, so I fully understand. I've heard stories with respect to this. It's interesting looking at the array of materials that came in, the emails that came in. For some reason, almost all of them seem to be from Barrington, and I'm not sure whether Barrington just took an outsized interest in this or what. But the question I have is this, and maybe it's because a lot of them seem to be the same, but a number of them are mentioning bell-to-bell as being optimal. And you mentioned being in the hallways and actually seeing them looking at you, looking you in the eye. And I'm certainly not commenting on the bill as it is. I think this is a wonderful bill. I appreciate Senator Murray bringing it forward. But I do wonder, as I look at those, some of them are saying it could probably be strengthened, and we could be looking at more of a compulsory rather than just let's have policies. I know it's not always one size fits all, but there are certain things that, in looking at the studies, are fairly compelling with respect to this particular topic. And there are times when we, as a body, perhaps take a look at it and say we've got to be a little stronger on this. I just wonder whether we should have bell-to-bell. And I'm curious, perhaps I'll leave it for the others to address it as we go. I'm curious, Mary, to get your view on that.
I mean, I think where it's instituted and it is bell-to-bell, it's successful. I mean, but again, a lot of this is, too, it's about the implementation, it's about the education of students, the education of families, the education of parents, working with educators, working with administrators, making sure the policy is clear and that everyone understands it. I mean, most of the time in a lot of these things in schools, it's about the execution, right? And it's about the support as well from the administrators in enforcing the policy. And so that's an important, I'll just like reiterate that as if you have two family members who are teachers, right? I mean, teachers are willing to enforce the policies if there's backup behind them when they're enforcing the policies. And so it's important that we have administrators as part of these conversations too, so that they're helping teachers enforce the policy.
I absolutely agree. The only thing that strikes me about that is sometimes it's easier to enforce something which isn't done, I won't say piecemeal, but
right.
From time to time, it's just flat out bell to bell, boom, no cell phone.
Right.
And I can only imagine, as I've got a couple of grandkids who are coming up to the age where they're pressing for cell phones, I can only imagine the screaming that would go on were that to be the rule. But that's kind of tempered by the fact that I'm encouraged by the teaching that might go on if we were to have that rule.
Yes. I mean, and I think that's, I mean, we talk a lot about we want to see students improve academically, socially, emotionally, and we really believe that, limiting cell phone use in schools is going to do that.
There aren't many silver bullets, but this could be one.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?